honestly, if, going back to a couple of questions ago, if there's anything you could have done differently, I would have let him in the door.
Right.
Because that would have been great TV.
Yeah.
We all remember it, right? It was in April of 1998. The ratings war that had been dominated by WCW for so long was now starting to tip in the WWE's favour. And they looked to capitalise on this momentum by invading a WCW Nitro on live TV.
You think WCW sucks?
Triple H, X-Pac, China and the New Age Outlaws arrived at WCW headquarters on an army jeep with a tank gun, and they wanted in the building.
Get a shot of them closing the gate! The war! The war begins!
They were causing all sorts of havoc with Triple H on his megaphone, putting WCW down, making jokes, saying how the WCW had to give away their tickets to fill up their shows. They weren't holding back. And so, with all of this going on outside of the building, there was still a live Nitro going on inside of the building. And as we say, there was actually that moment where DX tried to get in the back door, but it was promptly shut on them. And in this next clip, you're going to hear Eric Bischoff, when he is asked what he would do differently that night, he says he would actually let them in, and that sure would have been something to see. Would have made for some amazing live TV. Here's Eric Bischoff.
Eric, I was wondering what your thoughts were when DX was trying to invade WCW. Also, what would you have done if they got into the building with a giant tank? Okay, we'll skip that one. What were you thinking when, because what was that? Was that down there in Norfolk?
It was in Norfolk. It was at the Scope.
Because we were right down the road. So DX had the gimmick out there, the tank, whatever it was. They had the megaphone. It was Triple H, it was Billy Gunn, and Road Dogg. What was going through your mind when you heard these guys were out in the parking lot doing all this stuff?
I don't recall exactly, but I'm sure I recall being confused. It's like it was hard to believe it at first. Not like, oh my God, I can't believe they would do this. It was like, really? Are they really out there?
Yeah, but y'all were broadcasting the results of matches on every other week.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't blame him. In fact, Bruce Pritchard and I are still good friends. We laugh about it to this day because I believe he was very instrumental in all that. And it was like, okay, we're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to do this to them. And I was more surprised that you guys actually did it,
right,
than anything else, because it was a big move, and it was not Vince's MO at the time was just don't acknowledge him.
You're right.
And now they were not only acknowledging us, they were maybe going to be on my TV show if things would have gone a little differently. And honestly, if going back to a couple of questions ago, if there's anything you could have done differently, I would have let him in the door.
Right.
Because that would have been great TV.
Yeah.
Sue me now. Now that you've chosen to be on my television show.
That would have been
awesome. But, I missed that opportunity.
So some really interesting listening there with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Eric Bischoff, the man who used to be in charge of the WCW. And can you imagine if DX had have been allowed to get into that building that night and had have actually invaded live WCW television? That would have been so cool. And it always was a real shame that they never could have like some kind of cross-brand pay-per-view like the WWF versus WCW one night only type of thing. Man, you could have had some dream matches on that card. Hogan versus Austin, Shawn Michaels versus Sting, The Undertaker versus Goldberg, the New Age Outlaws versus the Outsiders. Just as a few examples, all these guys in their prime. Not wrestling each other when they're 50 plus, but wrestling each other when they were at their best. But it never happened. Could you imagine the politics that would have gone on of who's going over? I guess they would have just never have been able to sort that out. It's a real pity because the fans, of course, would have loved to have seen something like that. Thanks heaps guys for tuning into the video. Be sure to drop a scorpion death drop on that like button and subscribe to the channel for more awesome pro wrestling action from the WWE, the WCW and much more.